to start with who SK Environmental is. I don't know if you guys know Sheila Kennedy, but she was a county weed supervisor for a number of years, and then she started SK Environmental as an owner-operator of a wash system. And then she used that wash system a lot at fire incident camps, just cleaning vehicles off, making sure they weren't spreading the weed seeds. And as she used the machines that she did have, she saw a number of improvements that could be made. So she applied for a grant with the Federal Highway Administration, and she got that grant. And Federal Highway recognized that travel corridors are one of the biggest areas that are moving these weed seeds around. And so the cleaner that they can keep those corridors, the more effective they're going to be at stopping the movement of invasive species. And I'm sure that hopefully you guys all recognize that kind of thing. So what the mandate was that the Federal Highway Administration gave to Sheila, besides the improvements that she wanted to make, was they needed a piece of equipment that was affordable, portable, efficient, and easy to use. So those were the things that she was really going for. And with that grant, then she was able to contract with me, also an engineer, Chris Croft, and then Denise Horton, who is a seed specialist. And my responsibility on this was just as weed scientists, let's make sure that we're actually improving the efficiency on this. So from that, I'll just start with going to the next slide. Okay, Steve, I should have tried this before. There we go. All right, so just the number one benefit of the machine is going to be to prevent the speed of invasive species, or the spread of invasive species. That's what we're really trying to do here. So preventing introductions means eliminating the long-term costs. And that's what the most important thing is when we're looking at this, is that we want to eliminate those long-term costs. So ways that we're going to be doing that, I'm sorry. Why am I having such a problem forwarding this? Are you doing that, Steve, or am I doing that? Anyway, so environmentally sound. This equipment is environmentally sound because it conserves water. It also captures any of the debris on site and makes it for easy disposal. So that was a big part of this thing. For the efficiency, more vehicles can be processed in less time. It's easy to set up and dismantle, and also better cleaning for greater prevention. So the cleaner we can get the vehicles, the more we're going to be able to not spread those invasive species. And then, of course, cost-effective was a big part of it. With this piece of equipment, you can actually just have one person that can run that. Typically on a Forest Service contract they'll require 2 people, so this actually frees up another person for other duties. It also has new options that can extend the use into winter. Besides cleaning just mud and debris off of it, can also be used in the winter for cleaning any of the crud that gets on there just for those winter months, as well as being able to neutralize de-icer that might be on that vehicle. And then there's also the versatility of the equipment, that it can go to numerous different sites, and it can also be shared by individuals. So a number of people can own this piece of equipment together. I'm just going to show you an overview so you understand like the total concept of it, and then we'll go through the individual parts. So just starting with the first part, we've got the first mat here, first reclaim mat, and this is a high volume wash. So you've got people just cleaning the vehicles here, that this is where your mud and your weed seeds would all come off. That water will all go over to this reclaim pump and get pumped back to the trailer for cleaning that water to reuse it. So that's the first reclaim mat. And then there's a second reclaim mat. That's the prevention rinse. It also has the same thing where it can collect all the water. So again, there's nothing left on site. This is the overall trailer. It's self-contained, where it has its own generator, It has its own water supply, and then it also has a 7.5 horsepower pump and an air compressor, and we'll talk more about how those interact with the system. So that gives you just the overview of the piece of equipment that we're talking about, and then we're going to just go through the benefits of why this piece of wash equipment and what this can do for you. So we've got the baffled water tank here, and inside there's several compartments. There's a clean water compartment in here, and that's what's used to drive onto these mats, or used for cleaning the belly of those vehicles. And then that water, again, collected into the reclaim pump and pumped back into a separate tank up here, where that water is held for going through a filter system. That filter system consists of two filters, a 25 micron filter and then a 10 micron filter going to a 25 micron filter. And those filters actually have a filter sleeve inside of them that once that filter sleeve is full, and it'll get full of the plant debris as well as mud and whatever else is coming off those vehicles. Once that's full, that whole sleeve can just be pulled out. It can be bagged, just like if you're having a weed pull or whatever, and you bag those weeds and then you take those to the dump for disposal. That's the same way that you can treat this filter, because all you're dealing with in that is just the weeds, the seeds, the mud, and that kind of thing. And then what goes back into the tank is clean water. So then that clean water can be ran back through that system. And of course, before the pump that is pumping that water out, there's also another filter there that's just trapping anything that might be in that water so that you don't ruin your pump. Okay, so just how the equipment works. So the efficiency part. Sheila's been, since the prototype has been completed, she's had it on a number of tests as well as demonstrations, and utilizing it on at least one fire incident. I know she may have been on two. But anyways, what they found is it's taking only 2 to 3 minutes to clean those vehicles. And again, just one person, and they're freeing up that other person to take care of whatever else has to be taken care of to process those vehicles. But when you think about it, just that less than 5 minutes of investment for your future savings on costly long-term invasive species control and management practices. There's studies done with Aquatic Ecosystem Restoration Foundation that looked at just cost and benefits of, where you put the effort in your money, and they found like a 1 to 10, being really conservative. It was a 1 to 10 benefit of any dollar you put at the beginning compared to dollars at the end. So $1 to $10. If you spend $1 on prevention, you're going to save $10 on management. And they found that what most of the studies showed, though, were that the actual what they found was 1 to 200 of a cost-benefit ratio. And so that means if you've put 5 minutes of investment into washing a vehicle, you've saved 17 hours not spent on doing control and management. And I think Steve could probably tell you what that 17 hours of control and management is going to cost you. So you've got that savings just for spending 5 minutes on there, and it's only taking you one person. Unless the contract is requiring for more people to be on site with that equipment. So first thing that we're going to be doing is going on the mat with the automated, with an automated undercarriage, high volume, low pressure wash. And if you look down at the right hand corner here, you've got the pad. That is a pressure sensitive start and stop pad. So as that front tire goes over that pad, that starts the first wash system, and when the back tire goes over, then that stops it. And so there's Sheila here just lining up the vehicle to go over these spinners. And anything that's a half-ton to larger can go over these spinners just fine, and we'll talk more about the spinners. But if you get something like a car, a small car like what's in back of that truck, then you have to get that vehicle up higher, and she does have ramps so that you can set the ramps up. That truck drives up and over those ramps, or that car drives up and over that ramps, and it can also have the undercarriage cleaned. So when it starts it, you've got two spinners. You've got a dual set of spinners that are delivering 300 psi at 30 gallons per minute. And those are spinning underneath the vehicle, getting those so the people are driving slowly over that. That's dumping off or washing off any mud and plant debris that might be underneath that vehicle. That goes onto that reclaim mat and then is able to get sucked up by that reclaim pump. But so these spinners, as they've got water coming out, they're also turning around. Then the truck will drive onto the second mat, and again you've got the pressure sensitive start and stop pads. The second mat I'm going to spend a little bit more time on. This is the prevention rinse cycle. This is what's really new about this system. This is only with the SK Environmental wash system. It's something that SK does have a patent pending on, but you'll only find the second wash part with Sheila's equipment. And why the second rinse, why the prevention rinse? Well, the Army Corps did a trial where they were looking at engines, pickups, and dozers, and they had 5 different people, 5 different wash companies doing these washings, and I think one of them was actually just Forest Service personnel. But what they found was the efficacy is much less than 100%. While the process would reduce the risk of seed transport, it would still not eliminate it. So what they're trying to do is, what we're trying to do with this prevention rinse is get as close to as eliminating the ability for seeds to repopulate an area as possible. So what we've added here is an ultra-low volume rinse system. And we're going to call it a sidle rinse because there's a number of things that can be run through in here, and I think you'll understand that more as I go through here. But we use electrostatic spray nozzles, and these are max charge. This is a max charge spray system. It's electrically like charged droplets, so you have an electric node coming up through here that's going to charge those droplets. You also have a compressed air driven for the volume that's going through here. So this is where the blue is where the sidle rinse goes through, and that's just being pushed through there with that air compressor. And then you also have an air-assisted air atomizing induction charge. So, and that's where the red is. The big red hose is just compressed air that's coming through here, and that way we can keep the volume low and the pressure low of the liquid that's coming through here, and then it's being atomized, or that pressure is being added at the nozzle when the electric charge is given. So the electric charge of the particles results in an even coating of a contaminated surface, including hard to reach areas. What we end up putting on is about 2.5 to 5 ounces of material per vehicle, and that's what's coming out of the nozzles going up underneath that vehicle, which means a 3-gallon tank can cover about 75 to 125 vehicles before you have to redo that. And that the difference of 2.5 to 5 ounces all has to do with how fast does that vehicle go over those nozzles, how fast does that driver go. We usually like to see for the really big trucks about 20 seconds for that truck to go over those nozzles. So it gives you an idea of just how little product is coming out of there. This gives you an idea of how that nozzle is covering what is going at. This is a traditional spray application where you're only getting one side, and that's why we couldn't go with the traditional application, because we were only going to end up getting the bottom part of any, say, struts or the frame or whatever, and what we need to do is get up into those nooks and crannies where those seeds may still be hiding. So that ESS application, the electrostatic application, can actually make a complete cover of that. One reason it's doing that is because all those droplets have the same charge, so as they're coming out of that nozzle, then they're trying to get away from each other, and as they get away from each other, they're being forced into those nooks and crannies. With the electrostatic droplets, what you're getting is a natural force of attraction between those spray droplets and the target surface. You're also pulling the pull of the spray towards the surface is 75 times greater than the force of gravity, and then also as the droplets approach the target surface, they can actually reverse in direction and move upward backwards against gravity to get sucked onto the metal and the organic matter. And they have a high affinity for the metal, such as on a truck, and then also that organic matter. So the result is 70 times more spray reaching the surface than conventional sprayers. So that has really helped with just the environmentally friendly part of it, that we know that any sidle spray that we're putting through there is mainly going to that truck. So this just gives you an idea of what that looks like. This is the ultra-low volume electrostatic sidle application. And again, that's being started and stopped automatically, and the driver just stays in the vehicle. And here there is no extra wanding or anything like that that's needed around the bumper or anything. This is just a bigger truck to show you that spray. And we actually had to wait for the wind to come up, and it was blowing from the driver's side to the passenger side, so that it could blow a little bit of that fog out from under there so that people could actually see what was going on in a slide. But now, in a real case situation, if you did have a wind that was blowing like that, Sheila does have, they call it curtains, and they're basically a plastic that goes up on the sides to stop that wind from coming through there. That would be set up on either side of the mat to really cut down that windage. You know, and then with the attraction force of those droplets to the truck, that you're not going to have much off target at all. So again, these are coming through just a 3-gallon tank that's air pressurized. And that sidle rinse is going to control any of the remaining invasive species that are on there. It's an ultra low volume and seeks out those seeds. And then there's no collectible waste that's generated. Anything that you might have left over at the end of the day can easily be poured from this jug into a container or left in there. Or at the end of the season, if you have sidle rinse left over in there, that you can put that back in a jug and then put in your neutralizer for the de-icer. Or whatever you need to do for that. So this system, environmentally sound. We're reducing the chemical waste. We're using low toxicity chemicals. And then we can spray longer with less chemical, which means you're having to fill that little 3-gallon tank less, so just less exposure there. It's also extremely easy to use. The hookups are all pretty much can be done ahead of time, and then just to clean those nozzles, all you're doing is twisting off the top. So, and again, this is only available with the SK Environmental Wash system. All right, so how do we know it really works? That's a question that a lot of people would be asking us, and so we made sure to show you the data of how we did make it work. So you can see here that we've got a bunch of seeds in different Petri dishes, and what we would do is tape those Petri dishes to the upper side of this undercarriage. And we had a number, typically we'd have about 12 Petri dishes that were set in among that, and then we would run it through that system. So the spray had to not only get up above the undercarriage, but also had to go over this lip of the Petri dish. So this is just the piece of equipment, or the truck that we used where we placed those Petri dishes. We had 4 weed seeds, 4 weed types that we used, 400 seeds per species. The truck went through that rinse application. We did it 4 times, 12 Petri dishes each run. The seeds were misted with water ahead of time, and this actually helped the seeds to stay in those Petri dishes, but it also simulated that it would go through that wash, the high volume wash first. Once the seeds were treated with that sidle rinse, then they were air dried, and then they were sent to Denise Horton for germination testing. This is with the spotted knapweed, the kind of thing that we were seeing. So here's the control on the left, and that would be the normal growth. And then for the prevention rinse, we actually had the seeds germinate, but they had kind of odd growth. Sometimes the top would actually be trying to grow down, whereas the roots were trying to grow up. When these were planted in soil, you can see how the control, good growth there, whereas in the prevention rinse, they're really having a hard time. We have maybe 2 or 3 out of that 50 that were in there that started to grow okay, but when we pull them out, you notice they have no root system to them. And within a few weeks, these have just all rotted off, and you know that in a real world situation that there's no way that these are, the prevention rinse ones are going to be making it to maturity to produce any more seeds or cause any more problems in that environment. Same thing with Scotch thistle on the left, again, the normal growth. And then on the right, we see the same abnormal growth from the prevention rinse. And at 36 days, this is what we saw with the Scotch thistle. You can see these are real chlorotic, and of course they're being treated like babies here. I mean, getting the best treatment from Denise, where they're getting watered regularly and that kind of a thing. Now you put that on a roadside in some of those soil types that they have there, and these are just not going to make it to maturity. And they didn't in Denise's test either. So the 4 that we looked at was white top, diffuse knapweed, Scotch thistle, and spotted knapweed. And the total height of these bars is the % germination that we got from those seeds. Then the light green color is the normal growth that was expected, and then is the normal growth that was expected, and then the dark orange is the abnormal growth that we saw. So with the field test, with the Seidel rinse on the truck, compared to the control, we did not see a whole big drop in the actual germination, but we did see a big drop in the normal growth of the white top. Now we are trying to go for that 100% control, and actually for the Highway Administration grant, they were looking for 80%. So we achieved the 80%, but we would have liked to have seen it higher. We did get that with the diffuse knapweed, the Scotch thistle, and the spotted knapweed, where we got excellent control for all of those. And then the other test in here is that we wanted to make sure that the control was not necessarily the fault on the Seidel rinse, but a fault on the total coverage. And so the treatment 2 in there, the lab test, is where those seeds were actually dipped directly into that Seidel rinse, pulled out, let dry, and then sent to Denise for germination. And so when you look at diffuse knapweed and the Scotch thistle, we actually got greater control when they were on the trucks as compared to when the seeds were dipped directly into that Seidel rinse. Spotted knapweed is about equal. With white top, we did much better when it was actually just the dip. And so maybe here we're seeing that we're not getting quite the coverage that we'd like to see, or that we need to have for the white top. But overall, we were real happy with the control that we were getting from that Seidel spray. So with the prevention rinse system, again, the versatility in there is you can have it as a Seidel treatment or as a de-ice neutralizer. One reason that we're calling it a Seidel rinse, though, is because we can put so many different things through there. You can actually have a rinse that's actually just for control of invasive plants, or you can start modifying that Seidel rinse to target specific invasives that you'd be going after, including the like the larvae and that from zebra mussels, or that kind of a thing. We're partnering with a company right now that's actually developing a spray that will be able to go through our system that will control those villagers that are from the zebra mussels. So the system can be easily modified for specific or expanded uses. So you can be using it not only for the undercarriage of vehicles, but also for boats or aquatic equipment. And then it can either be set up permanently or it can be mobile. And so what we mean by this is that with the water source, that water source can actually come from a spigot that you've got it hooked up directly through the system, or you can fill the tank and the tank can go off-site, or you can have the whole system off-site where you don't have a water source available. Also, with filling that tank, you can do it by a fire hose or a garden hose, and then the power source is also that same way, that you can either be using the generator, or if you've got power on site, you can actually plug it right into a 220-volt supply. For versatility also, because you have that air compressor on deck, you don't only have to be washing these vehicles, getting things off with the water, but say a mower deck or filters or whatever, and you get seeds in those, you can actually just blow those right out. And then also you've got the hand wand, and the hand wand is real useful for sometimes as those guys are going over the dual spinners, that you might want to be hosing off the front bumpers, the back bumpers, sometimes up around around the sides, if there's step-ups to get into the truck and that kind of a thing, that the hand wand is really useful for that. And also, if you don't have the ramps for the smaller vehicles, you can have the smaller vehicles, you can easily move the spinners out of the way, have the smaller vehicles drive right up onto that mat and use the high-pressure hand wand. So hopefully you're starting to see just the different places that this can be washed. This wash system can be used for the highway construction, contract work, fire incident camps, boat docks, logging areas, I mean pretty much any place you can think of, as well as who is it appropriate for. I know with Forest Service that for their contracts that they're actually would like the contractors to be washing vehicles before they come on site, or if it's a especially weedy area, before they leave that site. And so contractors obviously can be used with counties and cities, and then entrepreneurs who may be wanting to own and operate the equipment similar to what SK Environmental does, or even that they would rent it out. Some other things that Sheila just observed that she needed improved, which really helps just the whole system with ease of use, is just easy access to some of the panels that are used for the system to get it up and running and going. Also some other things, a lift for loading the reclaim mats, even though they're easy to spread out and easy to fold up, they're really difficult to lift, and so they've got a lift right on the trailer to help with that. Also, the water before going through the pump, of course you need a filter system there, so they've just got a clean basket strainer that's really easy to clean out. Also quick connect hoses and shutoffs, and then also a built-in berm into the mat, and that's the striped blue and white there, so you don't have to worry about putting the berm up around the mat. Actually, as you lay out the mat, the berm is right there with it. Portability is really a boom, even for the investment of, how are we going to pay for this? And that's where you can actually share the cost with people because it's so mobile and that it can set up in so many sites. You can have it owned by a number of people at one time. Or, like I said, you could have one owner that actually rents it out to people. So you may have one piece of equipment for a whole district or county or region, and if you're only using it when you have construction on site, then you just take that portable wash to wherever the construction is. So the bottom line is basically if you've got your prevention plan in place, or that you've got it within your management plan that you have a way that you're going to have prevention, and within there that you have a wash system that's written in there, this wash system can probably be modified in order to meet your needs. Or if it's not meeting your needs right now, that I'm sure you could talk with Sheila, and if there is a missing component in there, get that in there so that so it does meet your needs. But for the majority of prevention wash systems that people would require, I believe this system would meet their needs. And Sheila likes to just give credit to those who helped her out, so Chris Croft, the engineer, and Denise Horton, the weed seed specialist, and then myself. And so that's all I've got with this. I'd love to take some questions if anybody has any questions.